Hello and welcome to another episode of MCCM's Mates Rates, a podcast where we look at business owners' journeys from start to finish and they rate their startup experience. Today's guest, we've got Lucas Urmston from Door to Door Valeting. How are we doing, mate? You okay?
I'm good, you?
I'm good, mate. Welcome to Mates Rates. Welcome. You might notice that Lucas is looking a little bit tired at the moment. He's a new dad, so congratulations, mate.
Thank you very much, mate. I'm getting a lot of sleep, though. He's a good lad. Don't worry about that. And the missus is a good one, too. So
good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, you've got to give her a plug while you're on this, mate. She'll be watching this later. So, so the premise of the podcast is to talk us through your journey. So we usually get straight into it. We don't mess about. So tell us a little bit about why you started Door to Door Valeting, how you started it, and your experience.
Bit of a crazy one, to be honest with you. So I was full-time employed for mergers and acquisitions firm selling businesses. I left school with nothing, did a year at college, I did an apprenticeship with my dad for like 12 months and then just thought, no, I need to go and do my own thing, and sales was something I knew I could do. So I went into the sales of businesses. I was only 17 at the time when I started there. My manager, Chris Fielding, who I still speak to now, he took a risk on me, he said, and the risk paid off. So I was there for 5.5 years. But I would say about 2 years into it, we went back after the Christmas break, and January's a long month. And I looked at my bank, and I'd spent a lot on Mad Friday, and then I'd spent a lot on New Year, and I was thinking, I'm not going to get through January. I need to do something. So I rung one of my good mates who I run all my ideas through, basically, and he was like, what are you thinking? And I come up with the idea of a mobile valeting firm, and at the time being in Atherton, Astley, Tilsley, Lee, there was nobody doing it. There was nobody doing it at all. And we both looked at each other and was like, where do we start? Off we went for a cartridge jet wash, buckets, products, and booked up a weekend within 3 days just through posts on local Facebook pages like Tilsley Live, Absolute Astley pages, Atherton Residents. Before you know it, my phone was just non-stop, and we were just doing weekends, Saturday, Sundays. But we were doing like 6-7 cars on a Saturday, 6-7 cars on a Sunday, and at the same time, I was doing 9 till half 5 in the office Monday to Friday.
Alongside your other job as well.
Alongside. So it was like juggling everything in between. We were doing it out of the car as well, which made it a little bit difficult. So it was like out the boot of the car. The car was getting wrecked because all the products was leaking everywhere. And when it was raining, we were just chucking everything in dead quick kind of thing. So it was a bit of a mess, to be honest with you, when we first initially started it up. We got like 6 or 7 months down the line, and my mate who I did it with, I'm still best mates with now, just dropped out on me, just decided that his work at the same time as doing the valeting, he just couldn't keep up with the hours. He also had a little girl on the way. So it was more of a case of he had to find the time for weekends to be at home while working on his full-time job. So he kind of said, I'm going to have to take a back step, and you're going to have to continue it if you want to continue it on yourself. And a lot of people would have said, though, that's where the business would have failed down, because I wasn't the person who was hands-on at the time. I was more of the Facebook posts, the social media content kind of person. Yeah. I also had a lot of people who I knew were going to book in with me anyway, so word of mouth, I knew that would kind of take off naturally for me. But he was the hands-on person, so when he cancelled and dropped out, people were like, oh, well, that's door-to-door finish. And I was like, no, it's not. That's just the start kind of thing. And it kind of gave me a kick up the arse to like go and carry it and take it further. So we got through another year of valeting just at weekends, and then COVID hit in the March. Now I was still obviously working full-time in the office, and Ali Centre was working from home. I was a bit cheeky, so on my hour dinner time, I'd tell a car to come to the back of my house, and I'd do a quick job on the mate's car.
It's not cheeky, it's entrepreneurial,
it had to be done kind of thing. Yeah. So, and then when the full restrictions come in, I was sat there thinking to myself, like, I need to be clever. So we bought I bought a steamer, and I kind of changed my services to like custom made cleaning, so like COVID cleanses and stuff like that, so that I could still actually work. I wasn't capped in not working because there was so many restrictions. I could still work because I was doing these COVID cleanses, like bombing the people's cars and stuff like that, and fogging people's cars. So I was adapting to overcome what was going on. We got to like the end of summer in COVID, the first like March to summer. And I was looking at the diary and I was like, oh my God, I'm booked up till December, just on weekends. I was like, what am I going to do? The phone was still ringing saying, we need our car valeting. Can you valet our car? I'm like, yeah, the 22nd of November. We're in September. Like, people are like hell, I'm going to book in for a valet that long in time. So that's when I kind of sat down and I worked out some numbers, and I was like, look, can I take the risk of leaving where I am, going full time? What do I need to be successful to go full time? Because you can't just rely on people having an outside tap at the house and having access to their electric. Yeah. So I was trying to think of ways to be like self-catering myself, so I wasn't relying on anyone. So if people did have COVID, they could just unlock the car and I could clean the car, they could lock the car, job done, because I've got all the power and everything. So I put a bit of time, a month or two, into thinking about it. And at the same time, I didn't have the balls to tell my boss what I was doing, because he still didn't know I was working weekends. Yeah. So I was like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Pulling my hair out. I sat down with my dad, who has a business similar in the same sector, not in the same sector, but in a similar line, a little bit more niche, dealing with more higher spec vehicles as such. And he sat down. When I told him the plan, he was like, yeah, what do you need? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do, kind of thing. So I took a loan to set up what I needed off him, kind of as such. Bought myself a van, my water tank, my generator, upgraded a bit of my equipment, new hoovers and stuff like that. And in the November, handed my notice in. By the middle of December, my boss just went, look, mate, just go. It's pointless waiting.
So what's the time frame from the initial idea to handing your notice in?
About 3 years.
Oh, so it
about 2.5 to 3 years, I'd say. It was just weekends at the time. Yeah. I had 12 months without a vehicle. I won't go into details why. And I still managed to run a mobile valeting business without having a vehicle, through mates who I owe probably various pints to. My mum and my dad taking me to people's driveways at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning for 12 months.
Do you know what? It's interesting, just going back to the 3 year thing, because we've had multiple guests on this podcast now, and if you've not checked them out, please do. And some people have quick overnight successes, and some people, there is a gradual progression, and it does take time. And what's striking, because I know you not very well, but we know each other well enough to be able to have a chat and a pint. Yeah. But just from this first few minutes of this conversation, it's how methodical you've been, and how you've planned things out, and the thought process behind it, which it's actually... It surprised me a little bit, because from speaking to you, and
I am a bit of a live wire, and I am a bit of a...
But the planning side of it, it has actually surprised me.
When it comes to the stuff like business and stuff like that, I calm myself down a little bit. I'm not like ADHD Lucas that people kind of know me for and stuff like that. So I'm not as wild as it is when it comes to business. Yeah. So I had a plan, and I knew where I was going with it. I knew what I wanted to do. And COVID, for some bizarre reason, just advanced me like well ahead of where I thought I was going to be. Because I can remember before COVID, just like the December time before COVID, I was a bit quiet, and I was like, oh, I'll just have a few weekends off. And then all of a sudden it just went, whoa. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So then when we went full time, I didn't look back. 6 days a week, 7 cars a day. Crazy. Meeting various people, cleaning some absolute states of cars, people trying to get away with £30 valets, and they're like Mackey's chips all over it. No. I took a mate on who helped me out in the van while he had no work during COVID. So I was kind of like supporting a mate as well. So I felt a bit of like a responsibility kind of thing. Yeah. But in the back of my head, I knew my dad wanted the loan back in 12 months, which then was advancing me to my next plan of what I was kind of putting in the foundation. What would have happened if you did not give
it back in 12 months? Would he have like...
I don't know what would have happened.
Send the boys in.
I don't know what would have happened. We didn't get there, but I knew in about 4 months' time he was going to be saying to me, what have you made this year? Where you at? When can you repay?
And do you think that's just like a paternal thing to give you a bit of a spur on? Yeah, give you a time frame.
I think it was like a guidance, because he kind of said to me, the next 12 months will make or break you. You'll either be back in an office doing cold calling and selling to people, or be in some other job, or you'll be still valeting and you'll be still going on and doing what you're doing. But then I got another idea as such. So my dad was kind of improving his business, but he was lacking some services, as such as the mobile side. He didn't do ceramic coating as such. It wasn't a thing that he was pushing. So there was still some services that he was missing, and if you watch it, Dad, your age lacks you on social media. So that was another thing where he could use me. He's like a dinosaur on a computer. Yeah. It takes him so long to work out, even to open his emails. It's painful watching him. I feel like doing it for him sometimes. And this is where I then got my other idea. So I sat down, put my plan in place, and then I approached him at the end of the year. Like, I know I obviously owe you some money, but can we do something else? And he was like, what's that? So I told him the plan. He liked the plan. So then we progressed he'd already made PAVE Automotive, which was like the overall business of where we've taken things. You'll know PAVE yourself.
Yeah, I've done some work with PAVE in the past, yeah.
And we put door-to-door valeting inside of PAVE, so that any of like the bespoke vehicles that were coming to us to have the bigger work, the paint protection film done and stuff like that, we could then maintenance out on the road. So both businesses were kind of trading between each other. That was a couple of years ago, 18 months ago, and it continually progressed and progressed and progressed to where now we've got a guy in doing our own social media and stuff like that. So it's mad to look at it when I sit there and I sit back and think, when Lewis dropped out on me, things could have just gone finished as such, but it just expanded so far and so fast.
Yeah, I think you hear success stories, don't you, where people have dropped out and the person who's left over could quite easily just crumble and say, well, if they're going, I'm going. Yep. And they've thought, you know what, sod it, I still believe in this idea. I'm going to go with it. So, I mean, your startup experience is probably the longest we've ever heard in terms of like time frame. But how would you rate it? Because obviously you'd planned it so methodically and you knew exactly what you wanted to do. So how would you rate it from 1 to 10?
For how it's gone, the rating I'd give at the moment like a 7 out of 10.
That's good.
There's been hurdles. I'm working with my dad. We're going to have arguments every now and again, and there's going to be back chat, like you mentioned on another one of your podcasts, working with your partner and stuff. You're going to get little bits of arguments and niggles here or there, and that's going to happen naturally. So other than that, I think from what we've done and where we've taken things, like some of the work we've done, especially in the last 12 months, Derek's Lamborghinis at Lee Leopards, them three, what we did.
Yeah. We'll give Derek Beaumont a little bit of a plug here, because if we tag him in anything, it blows up on Twitter and Facebook.
It does blow up, doesn't it? So
cheers, Degsy.
Them Lamborghinis, what we did, when I look back at it now and I think to myself, he inquired initially for the one to be done. Yeah. And then when we did the one and he was made up with the one, next thing, the next one and the next one, we were like, oh my God, what have we got ourselves into? Yeah. And like, I kind of sat back like, thank you, Derek, but he let me drive the Lamborghini to the sports village. A dream. Yeah. And I sat in the car, and when I drove it up the East Lancs on the way to the sports village, I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm in like a 350 grand car.
From having no car valeting.
I'm now driving a customer's 350 grand car. I was like, pinch yourself, Lucas. Yeah. Don't crash. Don't crash. Yeah. Cruise control at 60 all the way up the East Lancs, mate. It was petrifying. Yeah. But I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It's been a good journey to get to where we are now. There's still other things evolving on top of the PAVE business with other businesses, but yeah, the way door to door went, it runs itself. Yeah, which is a dream. Any business owner who could say that it just runs itself as such. I see people there's so many mobile valeters now in the area. I see posts every week. And the prices on them, I look at them and I think to myself, I wouldn't send Mike, who does our mobile valeting now, out to do a car for that price. Yeah. I just wouldn't. We've set our standards. We know what we can do. We know the level of work we do. That's our price. And there's a reason the regular list is 100 people strong there, 50 to 100 people strong, who just return every month necessarily without asking them to.
Well, do you know what? It's a really good message that to the listeners as well, because setting a standard and believing in your product or your service and not underpricing or undervaluing yourself is a massive part of starting a business, because so many people think, do you know what, I'll just charge them a base rate to begin with, and they undercut other people just to get the work through the door. But the fact that you're not doing that's a message to the listeners.
My mates will say to you, there's no mates rates with Lucas. Charges you full price, mate. Full price. And I value the work that we do. Like Mike's time himself, the work that he does, who does the valet, it's nice.
You pay for quality, so if you're getting the quality, you shouldn't really expect a discount on it. No, I get that. So, I mean, it's great that your startup journey over a 3-year period was actually smoother than a lot of other people that we've had on the podcast. And the fact that you are so kind of in depth in terms of planning and think things through, it's really helped you get to that point. But sometimes there are things that are thrown at you that you just can't account for. So the second question that we always ask our people is, tell us what your biggest challenge has been to date.
Customers' expectations.
Really?
Yeah. And we're always honest with customers' expectations, because in every line of work, that you're going to have a teething issue or a problem, you're going to encounter an issue. Look, we deal with brand new cars that have come straight from the showroom, 120 grand, and each panel has a paint imperfection on it. But when that car comes to us, the customer expects perfection, and you can't get that if there's already an imperfection in the paint panel, like a speck or a little nick or something like that. It just doesn't happen. So I find the hardest thing in business is actually managing a customer's expectation in our industry, especially if someone's like, oh, well, my car just needs a mini valet and they'll only pay 30 quid. And then when you get there, Mike's like, you've not had your car cleaned in 3 years, love. This is a state. It should be 90 quid.
Yeah.
She has a heart attack on a driveway and Mike picks her back up and puts her on a chair. And it's like, you have to explain then, look, we're going to have to like wet vac and steam certain areas of your car. So that expectation aspect's the hardest thing in business for us.
I think if you've got the expertise and you've got the knowledge and the confidence to explain why your price point is what it is and the work that goes into it, expectations sometimes can be, you could turn that customer around, can't you? But there's always going to be a Karen somewhere.
Yeah, we had a woman who messaged the other week, and if she watches, God bless her, but she had a horse wagon. Right. And she'd asked us to do a full clean on a horse wagon. So Mike was like, price, like, give us an idea. And I said, well, it's 2 days going to be with 2 days of work with horse shit, like, mate. So 600 quid plus the VAT. She was like, I was expecting half. Okay, well, find somebody who will do that for half as such.
Yeah.
Like, we know what's going to have to go into cleaning that vehicle. Yeah. When you set a price and the customer then says, well, I thought it would be half the price, already we're like, we don't want it, because we go and put a day's worth of work into it and she's not happy with it. We'll be like, well, we told you it needed 2 days, but they're not happy. So it's about, for us, we always want to do an inspection on a vehicle. That's what we say to every person who books in. Let us inspect it or send us some photos. Then we can give you an understanding of what it needs, when we can do it, how long it's going to take, and then we can price you. Yeah. Rather than telling you, it's going to be 50 quid and it's not 50 quid.
Well, I think that's another good message as well to give to the listeners, is that due diligence and planning on things is massive in any sector, any business, any startup. If you turn around and bend over every single time someone wants to haggle a price, you're never going to get the value of what you're giving them, really, are you? So that's good that you've got that. So your challenge is obviously customer facing, because any customer facing business always throws up challenges. So what would you rate that on 1 to 10? Because bearing in mind you deal with really high value cars and vehicles, what would you say the rating on that is?
4.
A 4.
Yeah. It's difficult. Like, when they come in and they spent so much money on the car, like, you can imagine when a customer goes to a dealership, they stand 15 feet away from the brand new Porsche and they pull the fancy cover off it and it looks beautiful.
And the wild bite from
and
that
you're
distance.
Recording it on your Instagram story and all of that kind of thing. Yeah. You're not going around it, looking at it, thinking like, we put an invisible film over the car. So when a customer comes in, they're already looking for where that film is. Yeah. You want to know what they're spending, 2.5, 3 grand to have their car put with invisible film on. Mm-hmm. And they're like, where is it? And it's like, the fact you can't see it tells us that we've done a good job. Yeah. And they don't understand that. So that's why...
The clue's in the name, it's invisible.
Exactly. But that's why I'd give that such a low rating, because it's people's knowledge. Like, there's a few people that we deal with who they don't know what paint protection film is. Yeah. And you have to educate them on it. And then when they spend the money on it, they ring you back up 2 days later and they're like, can I clean it now? Yeah, I've give you instructions on how to clean it. But because they've never had it, you have to guide them through the whole step. So we have customers who are with us for like 6 or 7 months, continuously. They'll have the work done and they'll ring us every other week.
They're paying for your time as well, because every time you have to do a consultancy or give them some advice, that's your time that has to be paid for.
We always offer them a 90-day comeback to have an inspection as well. So within 90 days, we always tell them to come back down. We'll put the kettle on for a morning. They can have a cup of tea and we'll inspect the car, give it a clean for them, and then they can go off. And
what's the nicest car you've had in there? Don't say Derek's.
Don't know. Personally, I'm a big fan of the M3 estate.
Right, nice.
We had it in Isle of Man Green. If if you can attach a little image to the podcast,
I'll try and get that in there.
It's a gorgeous car, that is. Recently, they've just done an M3 competition, frozen white, brand new. But yeah, we've had Derek's Lamborghinis there.
I remember coming over. We did some filming there. There was a McLaren there.
We've done a few McLarens. We've done a lot of. I don't know if you'll have seen them. The Lotus Emiras.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues with them from Lotus themselves, but we've had a lot of Emiras.
You had any West Ham Claret Cupras in? First time for everything, pal. I'll give you a shout.
Not had that. No, we've had a few inquiries off a few people recently, which haven't come to through. We've got a Tesla in at the minute, which is getting wrapped in. Have you seen the Ferrari red?
Yeah.
Like the matte red, though. What they do?
Yeah.
He's having his Tesla Y wrapped in that, which
nice.
that'll look smart. To be fair, when it's done. But yeah, the cars, I could go endlessly. When I held them 3 Lamborghini keys in my hand, I was like, £1 million worth of keys here, Lucas.
Yeah.
Knock yourself over the head, mate. Seriously.
Actually, it's a dream job for someone who's
texting all the mates saying, I'll be up bongs in a minute, picking you all up.
Driving through
coming up Astley Brew, mate, in the SVJ.
Over those speed bumps, I don't think
no
so.
chance. It's not going to happen.
So, obviously, we've spoke about your startup journey. We spoke about where you are now. We've touched on where you are now, sorry. And we spoke about your challenges. Tell us about your business happiness at this moment in time, because you've obviously given up what you thought was going to be a career to move into something that is now a business. It's not just a career. And something that someone touched on in an earlier episode is that being a business owner is a lifestyle. You're living this now, because I know how many hours you put in over at PAVE. So tell us what your business happiness is right now.
At the minute, there's a lot more to achieve, so I'm not happy at all.
Really? On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the lowest, 10 being
1.
Really?
We've got a brand new business called CCC Next Gen, and it's just in the startup stages. And we've had a lot of teething issues with we're importing stuff and selling stuff and distributing stuff for car detailing. So basically, the film that we put on the cars, we're importing that in and selling it to other detailers in the market. I have been tasked the beloved job to run and oversee the whole of the UK, which comes with plenty of tasks.
Yeah.
And there's lots that we're doing, and I think in 12 months' time, if you was to ask me that question, I'd be like, hopefully 7 or 8 again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because the plans that we have got in place with it are good, are strong. We've just signed a distributor over in America. Which is massive. My dad's been over at SEMA last week, which is like the biggest automotive show in the world, and we've been pushing the brand over there. We've had quite a lot of famous people or high up people in the industry test the film, compare it to other people, and we've come out at the top of the chart. So I think things are falling into place, but because I'm not necessarily in control of, like with door to door, I was in control of when things were moving.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily in control of this now.
Yeah.
I'm more part of these businesses. So whereas door to door I founded, PAVE I was more of a partner. Whereas with CCC I'm more of like an operations manager as
you're
such.
Facilitating.
Yeah, but at the same time running all the other businesses. So it's like, Christ, there's a lot going on here with a newborn as well. There's a lot going on here. So the last 2 weeks I've made the most of having paternity leave, because don't get me wrong, the laptop's been open every day and I've been replying to people constantly, but I still need that break as such of just take me away from the place for a few weeks. I don't want to see people's faces and I just want to relax.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I might take you up on that. So in 12 months' time, I might actually give you a shout back to do a quick 10-minute teaser episode to see where your happiness is.
It'd be good to see. I think
your happiness in your business will probably be better, but then you'll be going through teething with the baby then. So it'll be more knackered than you are now.
I'll be more tired than I am now. But yeah, it's like we did a trip to Vietnam where the factory is over in June, and that was like the kind of the kickstart of it.
Oh, that's horrible. I bet you hated that.
And I had in my head to be going again in March, and I don't think that will happen with the newborn as such.
Oh, you have to. It's
5
business.
months old. Well, I can do, but I can't do at the same time. I don't think. But there's a lot of things going on over there, and the facilities and the market. If we can get the stuff into the UK, then we're gonna be flying. Yeah. It's just obviously at the minute there's a lot of logistics issues across the world. People struggling to ship and distribute and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people fighting for boats at the moment.
Yeah,
but we just got to continue as we are.
Maybe that's the next step. Start wrapping boats.
I had a horrible issue in March. I missed a text message off another guy who's a detailer. He was offering me to go to Barcelona for 4 days, polishing a yacht in the harbour. And I was out on the lash. Didn't see the phone for 2 days. Woke up like the day I was a bit more sober and started going through messages. Messaged him back like, yeah, you're flying tomorrow from Manchester, because he was flying the Monday. So I gone out the Friday night. When I got around to going through messages on Sunday, I was like, that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you still need someone? Like, I booked flights now. And nah, gone, mate. So I was like, 4 nights, 5 days in Barcelona, mate, off the cards.
But I'm sure there'll be, based on what you've just been saying there, man,
there's going to be plenty more.
There's going to be loads more opportunities. And I wish you all the best in this new venture, and we'll definitely have you back on. I appreciate it. Do you want to give your business a little plug? Tell people where to follow you?
If you want to, the main one, I think, is the door-to-door valeting one. We service people from all the way from Liverpool up to like Rochdale, Oldham and stuff like that. So we cover pretty much all of the Northwest. Like I say, you can book online or you can message us, kind of thing. Instagram, Facebook, everything's there. And I'll be the one answering you when I get a minute.
Nice
or
one.
Mike.
Cheers, Lucas. I'll let you get back because
buddy.
you'll need some kit before the night feed. So nice one. Cheers.
Looking forward to it. Cheers.